Welcome to the Work Done Right podcast, where we talk with industry professionals to discuss best practices in construction, manufacturing, and maintenance. I am your host, Wes Edmiston, Director of Product with Cumulus Digital Systems and 15-year construction industry veteran. Our guest today is McKitrick, who serves as an engineer for the City of Albany Department of Water and Water Supply. In her role, Caitlin is responsible for proactively ensuring the quality of water for the residents of the City of Albany, New York, by managing programs that ensure the integrity of the city's water infrastructure while maintaining continuity for residents. She recently received her professional engineering license and is passionate about furthering her education and sharing knowledge to better serve her community. Katie, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. I'm sure it's another beautiful day in Albany, New York.
Pretty gloomy.
Katie, just to kind of get started in this, I wanted to get a little bit more information about you. You have a degree in environmental engineering and sustainability. You recently got your PE license. Congratulations, by the way. And then you went into construction and infrastructure maintenance. How did you decide to get into the industry in the first place, and what made you pursue this path?
Yeah, so I was pretty lucky in as far back as high school to have some really good teachers that saw that I was good at math and I was passionate about making positive social change in the world. And, we're like, why don't you try these programs for girls in STEM and see if you like engineering. I would probably not have predicted in my youth that I would wear steel-toe boots and watch dirt move on a daily basis. But I found my way here by following passions for the environment and for social justice, even though to us water and sewer infrastructure might not seem like a social justice issue. It is both environmental and socially important. So,
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things that is easy to overlook the importance of, but to be completely honest, water is one of those things that it sustains all of the life, basically on Earth. So without it, we would be in a really bad spot. So yeah, it absolutely is. It's critical, really, in all areas of life. We really, even with that, we live in a world where environmental health has never been more critical. You've done in the past volunteer work and internships centralized around sustainability. How does the work that you do today align with sustainability and this work that you've done in the past?
I think sustainability is a really big word. It's a buzzword used all the time. It has lots of meanings for lots of different people, and every industry, sustainability probably means something a little bit different. But in all of my roles previous and in this one, I think sustainability means the goal in finding harmony between environmental health, 1, 2, social equity, so social justice between people, pursuing human rights, and also economic growth, because we can't do anything unless we're also making money to be able to keep doing it. So, sustaining all three of those things, not one and not two of them. You can't have one of them without the other. You can have all the money in the world, make all the money in the world, but you're going to degrade your environment and people. Or you can have a perfect environment where, the earth will last forever in pristine health, but we won't be able to survive that and we won't make any money doing it. So it's finding a balance between all of those things. We have to do that every day in our work, and I think everybody does. It just looks a little bit different in every industry.
Yeah, no, those are all really good points, especially, if you think about the areas where the obvious examples are where these things in your particular area have gone awry, right? We all know of the Flint, Michigans of the world, and nobody wants to end up in that condition. Nobody wants, their water department in order to be the ones that are in the news for all of this. So what is it that you and the people of Albany, the Albany Water Department, what are some of the proactive quality measures that you all have taken part in order to assure that you have, a robust and high integrity, water infrastructure, and that you are able to provide the level of really the assurance that everybody needs and the continuity that everybody needs?
Yeah, so the Albany Water Department, many water departments are like this, and some have more focused responsibilities, but we are in charge of water from when it hits the ground and gathers in a reservoir all the way till it gets to your house, so through filtration, through distribution, and then again from your house, your sewer pipes, all the way until the county treatment plant. So we have a huge team of people that are working on, all facets of getting water to you safely and taking sewage away from you safely. Some of those examples are our hydrant guys that are out in the field today flushing hydrants and making sure we're fire ready. Or our team sampling water out at the reservoir to make sure the water we're putting into the pipe in the beginning is being treated correctly and there are no hazards there. I specifically am in charge of our lead service replacement program, which is a pretty hot topic at the moment federally, which is good. There's a lot of regulation changes coming down the pipe and a lot of funding opportunity federally for lead service replacement. I run that program in Albany, so my day-to-day is figuring out, one, how can we be compliant with the EPA to make sure we are meeting those standards, but then also, and I have a good administration that gives me the freedom to do this, but how can we be better than those regulations and be prepared for whatever they might be. So we're actively replacing lead pipes in the city of Albany. I do it every day, and on days when I'm not out in the field watching my team do it, I'm planning for how we can do it, continue to do it in a way that is economically sustainable, environmentally sustainable, and socially just for our community of, 100,000 people.
No, that's really valuable. It's great that you have a group around you that also enables you to not just, strive for the minimum. What are some of the ways that you all are able to go in and not just entirely disrupt the entirety of, the city? Because as I think about it, people don't, again, I think people take for granted just what all we have going on any given time to maintain our infrastructure, right? Unless there's like a water main break or any other kind of outage, people don't think about it, and they really don't know what the infrastructure means. So you have a whole bunch of pipes that are running underground, underneath the roads, that if you're going to go up and replace all of these, because by the sounds of it needs to be done, we're going to disrupt basically everything that's going on and, rip up the roads and everything as well. So how is it that you all are able to do this without bringing the city of Albany to a screeching halt?
Lots of project planning. So lots of planning before any shovels go in the ground, but also, I guess from like a construction technology perspective, I also manage a lot of the city's trenchless rehab work. So in both water and sewer, and even more so in sewer, we try to stay learning about state-of-the-art trenchless technology. So a lot of times we are repairing a sewer underground. You don't see us except for a small pit or maybe trucks on the street, but guys are in the pipe, or machinery or tools are in the pipe underground repairing before major breaks happen, or rehabbing before something major happens. So we try to keep a small footprint. We don't want you to know that we're there most of the time, except for a little traffic disruption maybe, but that's not always possible. Sometimes we're definitely disruptive. Lead service replacements themselves are disruptive, but for a very short amount of time. So when we're doing our best to plan ahead, and know exactly what you're doing. It's repetitive, so know what you're doing ahead of time, and also plan strategically so that you can get in and out and impact people as little as possible.
Yeah, I think that's a lesson that most people need to learn a little bit better. Also, though, is just the level of planning that goes into any one thing. I mean, it's something that we all universally experience. Is for these, especially for these areas where we're going to be interfacing with a whole bunch of other moving parts that the flow of traffic is an unknown variable for the most part, right? We have a pretty good idea, but we can't guarantee on any one day what it's going to be. So yeah, I'm sure, the level of planning going into it is especially high for y'all.
Yeah. And, we always are trying to get better. So working with our other departments on when is the street getting paved so that we're doing the digging ahead of the street getting paved and not after, because that can get really bad for everybody. Or working with the gas company, gas companies replacing a gas line on this street. Well, what else needs to happen on that street? And can we do it this year so that that community is not facing excavation, dust, traffic disruption 2 years in a row, but all at one time?
Yeah, no, and that, again, it really resonates as far as the kind of the thing that we do on projects all the time, especially like my background and on industrial projects. It's always one of those things that you just kind of want to beat your head against a wall whenever you see somebody erect a scaffold, go through, bring in a bunch of pipe, tear down a scaffold, and then bring it back up, go to coat it, tear it down, bring it back up, insulate it. We just do these things over and over and over again. It's great to hear that you all, the city of Albany, are going ahead and assuring that you're just doing all of the work as much as you can at one time, right?
Yeah, and we're not perfect, and nobody will be perfect, but if you come to a table and you're prepared for communication and you're not always stepping forward like you are the most important utility and you're the most important department, and you're open to communication and collaboration with other people, then it's not too bad.
Yeah, again, that's a lesson I think we all need to learn quite a bit. But thinking about it, I believe that in most areas, people need to be their own biggest advocate, right? Not always do you have the luxury of having a Katie or, the city of Albany that is on your side and looking out for you. Is there anywhere that people can go, or how can people look up, I guess, one, that the quality of water that they have in their city, two, what the plan is for the remediation of their infrastructure, or any of these other things. Is there anything is there anywhere that people can go to find, maybe in their municipality or in their county, find this information out?
Yeah, so I always encourage people, even, especially people that aren't in the city, to Google your municipality, Google your water department and your local government. Most likely they have an abundance of resources that they are trying to get to you. And it's just really hard to, we send out mailers or we post on social media, but it's really just hard to, get to people until they need you for something they're probably not really aware. So I always recommend to people, find out where your water comes from. Are you getting it from the closest river? Are you, does your water department pump it out of the ground? Do you have a mountain reservoir like we have? Access your local government and just read what they have out there for you, or find what programs they have out there for you. Every municipality water authority is required to have a water quality report. So they have a publicly available report telling you about where your water comes from, what, specific criteria they might have issues with in your area because it's different geographically. Most municipalities and most local governments are trying to engage with you, and they just need usually a little bit of help from other, your side, that you want to engage with them too. But they, most have resources, most have water quality reporting, and they're trying to get that information to you. It's just tough.
And really knowing where you're getting the water from, in my mind, is huge. Especially, again, it's easy to point out all of the bad things in the news, right? But the train derailment here recently in Ohio is a really good example of you really want to know where your water comes from, right? And really that way you understand the things that happen upstream because you're downstream are largely going to affect you. So again, and not to just point out that it's only for bad circumstances that you want to know this stuff. It's just really a best practice to understand where it is that all of your life sustaining nutrients and requirements are coming from, right? And even kind of coming along with that, what other programs are out there for people, not just, to maintain the infrastructure of the general city, the general populace, what the pipes that are underground? Is there anything? I imagine there are lead pipes and walls as well if we were using them underground. Are there any programs or services that are out there that people can look to in order to, one, I guess, even, have their pipes checked in their house, but two, also to get those remediated as well?
Yeah, and I can only, I guess, surely speak from the city of Albany's perspective on that, but I do communicate with a lot of different municipalities just because we're a little bit ahead of the game, so a lot of them are kind of taking pieces and parts of our program and implementing them. And then again, next year, the EPA will have new regulations for lead and copper that will require municipalities to have programming and outreach. But in the meantime, again, if you call up your local water authority, your local government, we will anyways come out and take a look at that pipe for you, explain what's going on. If you do have a lead pipe, you can possibly get a sample as well through your municipality, or there's a lot of local labs, water quality labs that will do sampling as well for less than $50 usually. Go onto your local government websites because we have our lead service replacement programming and we have a grant available for our community to do that. But there are also federal grants distributed by local governments for low-income communities and low-income households for interior plumbing, like you were mentioning, lead inside the house or lead paint even, or other kinds of home improvements. So those things are out there, and a lot of times, like I said, your local government is trying to get you access to them, but you have to do your part too and want to engage.
Yeah, that's a great point. Do you know about when the cutoff was that people started or that people stopped using lead pipes in houses, for instance?
Great question. So the ban on using lead pipes was in 1986, 85 or 86, I think.
Wow, that's recent.
Yeah, but we see every community is different, but we see the use of a lead pipe underground taper off in the 60s usually. So it's definitely 1940s. You're probably still looking at lead. After that, it gets a little bit questionable, but if you're any time before 1986, it's worth checking out.
Wow, that's really interesting. Also, so I live here in the Midwest. We have a lot of houses. I mean, my mother-in-law's house, I think, was built in the 1880s. So they're definitely old houses through the area, and that makes me think that I need to get it looked up and assure that my mother-in-law isn't drinking out of lead pipes. So this is really good information. Katie, you work for the government, and that's not really a career path that I think that most people think about either, unless you're, living around the Washington, D.C. area. Could you tell me about kind of what that journey was like in order to seek out a job with the government and some of the benefits that you're seeing out of working with them and really just why you chose that career path?
I am personally very motivated by making change in my neighborhood. And for engineers specifically, you can kind of go, there's more than two, but two main pathways. One is a private industry and one is the public. So working for a consulting firm where you're consulting for municipalities and for other private industries, and you're kind of more regionally bound, so you're popping around to different communities, or local government, public, where you're, for me anyways, I'm very focused on the city of Albany, my neighbors, all the work that I do, my entire day, every day, is figuring out how I can make my community better. And you get a little bit of that in the private sector, but we also do not have the same requirements or goals for profits as the private sector. Not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, and you need that kind of industry to fill its role, but this role that I'm in now was just a lot more motivating for me, coming out of school and having student loans also, and wanting to see my impact on my community.
Well, it's very valuable. I think, that's one of those areas that people see, again, oftentimes in the news. They're always seeing what's happening at the state and the federal level, but it starts at the local community, right? So whatever you can do to get involved, that's fantastic that you're doing it the way that you are. But I really feel everybody should be doing something very similar to get involved to better their local community, right? That's what feeds up into get everybody into a better spot. You kind of said it earlier, though, that you had somebody seek out or help you whenever you were younger with getting you into pursuing the STEM fields. But we all know that it's not really commonplace to get women into the STEM fields, to get women into construction and to the public service. What sort of gender dynamics do you see when working and doing what you're doing, and what advice do you give, I guess, to other girls, especially around high school and college, about getting into this sort of industry, to going into the STEM fields, what to expect and what can they do in order to best prepare themselves?
I had a lot of women talk to me about being an engineer, being a female engineer, prior to experiencing it myself, but I don't know that anything really prepares you. I'm sure it's that way in many fields, but you're right. I had some women in my life that got me into this role, and I went to a lot of women in STEM camps, girls in STEM camps when I was younger, and now I volunteer a lot of those things now to encourage girls to be in these roles. I manage many, many men that are older than me, that have been doing their jobs for longer than I have been alive, certainly longer than I have been an engineer. And number one, I have to respect that. So if I want them to respect me in my role, when I'm very small in stature and have a high voice and I'm pretty young, coming out on the job and being a director of what's happening, then I need to respect that they've been here a long time too, and that they've seen a lot and they know what they're doing as well, and that we are a team. That's kind of first. I need to respect their role so that they respect mine, and that doesn't always work. And there are some people that will just kind of not really ever appreciate somebody younger than them, or maybe a woman being ingrained in their roles for so long. But I'm learning to let it roll off sometimes, and I have great supportive management and teams that help me get through that. I definitely recommend having a mentor. If you can find another woman that has, walked where you walked prior, then that can be really helpful too.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing whenever you are younger. It's great that you say, start off with respect, regardless of how long you've been doing anything. When dealing with anybody else, definitely start off with respect and humility. That's great to hear. I remember whenever I was 21, I first started supervising people in construction as well. And when, I'm younger than some people's like grandkids, it's like, well, great, here we go. I know the feeling entirely. It's great that you also volunteer with the other organizations as well. How can other girls go out there and find these organizations? What are some of these names of these organizations? How can they find them?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Different everywhere, but Girls Who Code, Girls in STEM, look up those kind of programs. There are summer camps. There are after-school programs, probably in just about every city, I would say. One of the programs that I volunteer with is Future Cities, which is not just girls, but it's all 6th through 8th graders in STEM. And for girls also, I think it's important to have somebody in your school that is rooting for you and sees that potential in you. So finding it doesn't even necessarily have to be a science or a math teacher, but a teacher or counselor that wants to root for you and help you out is so important too.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. It seems, Katie, like you're really passionate about, one, helping people, with the work that you're doing, with the volunteer work. And it sounds like you have quite a few irons in the fire. I'm curious, what would you say motivates you to volunteer, to get up, to go to work every day? What is your passion?
I think it probably all boils down. So I get lots of nasty calls. When something goes wrong, people... It's easy to blame the government, I think, for a lot of people, which is fine.
Well, everything is your fault, so it's fine, right?
Yeah. So I get a lot of rough calls, and I have a lot of rough days at work, too, where we're just trying to fix something or get the water back on or whatever. But if I get one call a week of somebody telling me, thank you so much, I didn't know any of this. I didn't know how I was going to get through this. You've been so helpful. That does it for me. That's why I chose this pathway. That's what keeps me here. It's seeing changes in my neighborhood. It's getting people to learn about how to turn their water off if they have an emergency leak inside. People don't think about that until it happens. And being one of many faces of a public utility where people develop trust because they've spoken to me, or now they know, how to use a resource that's available to them because they've spoken to me. That's so motivating and enough for me to keep doing it for now.
Yeah, that is great. I'm sure that is extremely rewarding. Again, people don't really think about the water district until something goes wrong, but it's great to hear that, you're out there, again, being proactive and assuring that people have the resources that they need. No, that's fantastic. I think, Katie, we're coming up close on time, so we're going to go into our rapid fire questions to get to know Katie McKitrick, the person, not just Katie McKitrick, the professional.
I was so nervous about this part.
There's nothing to be nervous about. It's just you, right? So first question, what song do you listen to get motivated?
Taylor Swift, baby. All day, every day.
No one song, it's just anything T Swift, huh?
Just anything T Swift. That's how I run. That's how I prepare. She's got my back.
That's funny. What's your idea of a perfect vacation?
Perfect vacation is going to have some relaxation, but it seems like every vacation we go on, we're also trying to figure out what mountain we can climb or where we can kayak or something like that. So a little bit of adventure and a little bit of relaxation.
That's perfect. And is that a metaphorical mountain that you can climb or a literal mountain you can climb?
No, physical mountain.
What's the one word that best describes you?
I think we probably hit it today. I'd probably go with passionate.
That's great. What's your favorite book?
Too many books in the world to pick a favorite, but a current fave, I will say, is Jeanette McCurdy's memoir. I highly recommend it.
I'll look it up. What is your dream job?
Probably to be the boss, right? Isn't that most people's dream job?
Until you become the boss. Yeah.
Yeah, until you become the boss. But I like what I do right now, and I really like my management. I think they do a great job. And I see myself someday probably, filling those shoes and being someone that calls the shots, but also I am excited to one day create an environment or be in charge of creating an environment, a workplace where people like coming to work and like each other and helping solve those problems too.
Yeah, that's great. What is your favorite quote?
I don't think I have a favorite quote. I couldn't answer that one.
Don't have one? That's okay. And if you could have dinner with one person from history, living or dead, who would it be?
Okay, I'm going to go with, my answer to this question is always Wangari Maathai. Probably never heard of her, but you should look her up. She started the Greenbelt movement in Kenya, which was like her gathering thousands of women to plant trees as a revenue source for impoverished communities and also as an environmental movement. So Wangari Maathai, Maathai.
I feel like more people probably should have heard of her then. Yeah, that's great. Well, Katie, I really appreciate you joining us here on the show. I had a great time and learned quite a bit. So thank you very much. Hope to do this again sometime. I hope you have enjoyed listening to this episode of the Work Done Right podcast. Please help us out by subscribing and leaving us a review. And as always, our show notes are linked in this episode's description. Thank you for listening and see you next time.